each of us. As I was looking for chalice words for this morning to celebrate our stewardship campaign, these words from Reverend Julia Hamilton resonated with me. She wrote, "I have a profound kind of learning in this question of how sacrifice is actually about learning to give deeply and meaningfully. Not just giving away a little bit at the edges, not just freeing yourself of what you already were going to give away. The clothes that I drop off at Goodwill were already on their way out the door. The donations that I make to other causes are often framed in small terms, less than $1 a day, the mailing request, and you get those address labels for free." She continues, and this is what really struck me. "But I don't come here looking for a bargain. It is only gifts that are given to this church where those that fit if those gifts that were given to this church were those that fit comfortably into the margins of our lives, I would be worried. Because it would mean that this place, this project, this grand experiment that we enter into every week together is only marginal in my life, in your life. The mission that we have adopted together is not a fringe benefit. It does not come with a mug or a tote bag. Rather, our mission demands of our best selves our sustained attention and our deepest faith."
So throughout the year, we hold classes for newcomers to learn about our church and our history, to find ways to get involved, to meet others who are wanting to become part of our congregation. So I invite those who are joining this morning to come forward and join Melissa and I up here. Come on up. When we have snowstorms and reschedule things, we get to do New Member Sundays a couple weeks in a row, for which we are grateful. When we welcome new members, it's a seemingly simple act of putting pen to paper, signing a name, saying welcome, and yet and still something more profound and deep happens. It's a commitment of hearts to hearts, a reconsecrating of a commitment of who we are, what values we share and we are called to, naming and honoring these new souls among us in the larger family of all souls. Know that this church is a home for your soul, that these here are your people. And together in grace and strength and resilience, we will make here a home for all souls who seek to find it.
Thank you. This morning we have Judy Fox and Deb and Mark Mowry joining First UU. Judy says, "I began visiting this congregation last spring after a recent move to Rochester. I'd previously been a member of a UU congregation in the Twin Cities and knew I'd find a community of like-minded people here. I've been so warmly welcomed into the congregation that I feel as if I've found my new home." And Deb and Mark, "We have been longtime Methodist members in Nebraska. We also attended a Universalist fellowship occasionally years ago, and Mark's parents are members of a UU church in California. Since moving to Rochester recently, we have attended several times, enjoy the music, the message, and friendly people at the services."
So come on up here around the chalice table. And I invite the congregation to turn to the litany of welcome, which is in your order of service, and we'll speak that together. I have it here. And first, the congregation. "We welcome you into this congregation and into the larger circle of Unitarian Universalism. We welcome your story, your identity, and the gifts that you bring. May you find here a home for your soul.
We gladly join with you as members of this church. We offer our gifts as we are able to the flourishing and well-being of this community and support the values of this congregation: hospitality, compassion, spiritual growth, and justice."
And all together. we covenant to travel together in this religious community. Here, may we be affirmed for who we are and challenged to be our best selves. Here, may we grow our souls, care for each other and the earth, nurture spiritual growth, practice justice, and together lead lives of meaning, service, and love. We bid you welcome, and the congregation's going to sing verses 2 and 4 of hymn number 1 in your gray hymnal. And as you sign, as they sing, I invite you to take care and notice the names that come before you, 150 years plus of history here, and the blank lines that are waiting behind your names for all those new souls who are yet to come. We'll sing together as they sign the membership book.
That makes me so happy.
I am 52 years old and have spent truly the better part of my life out of doors. But yesterday, I heard a new sound above my head, a rustling, ruffling quietness in the spring air. And when I turned my face upward, I saw a flock of blackbirds rounding a curve I didn't know was there. And the sound was simply all those wings, just feathers against air, against gravity, and such a beautiful winning, the whole flock taking a long, wide turn as if one body and one mind. How do they do that? Oh, if we lived only in human society, with its cruelty and fear, its apathy and exhaustion, what a puny existence that would be. But instead, we live and move and have our being here in this curving, soaring world, so that when, every now and then, mercy and tenderness triumph in our lives, and when, even more rarely, we manage to unite and move together toward a common good, then we can think to ourselves, ah, yes, this is how it's meant to be. And a second poem by Dick Allen, If You Get There Before I Do. Air out the linens, unlatch the shutters on the east side, and maybe find that deck of bicycle cards lost near the sofa. Or maybe walk around and look out the back windows first. I hear the views magnificent, old silent pines leading down to the lakeside, layer upon layer of magnificent light. Should you be hungry, I'm sorry, there's no takeout. Only a general store. You passed it coming in, but you probably didn't notice it's one weary gas pump along with all those Esso cans from decades ago. If you're somewhat confused, think Vermont, that state where people are folded into the mountains like berries into batter. What I'd like when I get there is a few hundred years to sit around and concentrate on one thing at a time. I'd start with radiators and work my way up to Meister Eckhart, or why so few people turn their lives around. So many take small steps into what they never do. The first weeks, the first lessons, until they choose something other, beginning their lives, so never knowing what it's like to risk last-minute failure. I'd save blue for last, Klein blue, or the blue of Crater Lake on an early June morning. That would take decades. Don't forget to sway the fence gate back and forth a few times, just for its squeaky sound. When you swing the tires swing, make sure your socks are off. You've forgotten, I expect, the feeling of feet brushing the tops of sunflowers. In Vermont, I once met a ski bum on a summer break who had followed the snows for 7 years and planned on at least 7 more. We're here for the enjoyment of it, he said, to slalom into joy. I'll expect you'll find Bibles scattered everywhere, or Talmuds or Korans, as well as little snippets of gospel music, chants, old Advent calendars with their paper doors still open. You might pay them some heed. Don't be alarmed when what's familiar starts fading as you gradually lose your bearings. Your body seems to turn opaque and then transparent until finally it's invisible, what old age rehearses us for and vacations us into the limbo of the Middle West. Take it easy. Take it slow. When you think I'm on my way, the long middle passage done, fill the pantry with cereal, curry, and blue and white boxes of macaroni. Place the checkerboard set, or chess if you must insist, out on the flat-topped stump beneath the porch window. Pour some lemonade into the tallest glass you can find in the cupboard. Then drum your fingers. Practice lifting your eyebrows until you tell them all, the skeptics, the bigots, those damn with faint praise critics on their hobby horses, that I'm allowed. And if there's a place for me that love has kept protected, I'll be coming. I'll be coming too.
So perhaps you can imagine it. A parent at the end of a long trip in a car filled with books just strewn all over the place, crumbs and snacks now just decimated, stuffed animals seemingly in every holder or door nook, in addition to all the regular stuff, the suitcases, the bags, the pillows, the coats. It's way after bedtime, and the kids are almost as cranky as the parents. And it's time to get them into bed, crying, kicking, screaming. The kids weren't happy either. And after a little tornado of the nightly routine, way off kilter, brushing teeth, pajamas, find the shortest story possible to read. Then it's time to unload the rest of the car. You can imagine that too, a formerly functional family vehicle now looking as if a small preschool just exploded inside. And while I can't say I've ever experienced something like this as recent as yesterday, one of the parents, we'll just call them the descendant of Adam, not Eve, tried to carry as much as possible in each trip from the car back into the house, you can imagine that too. And every single little trip, that short distance, garage to house, house to garage, without fail, something falls, something rolls, something breaks, because in exhaustion at the end of the day, they are trying to carry everything all by themselves, hanging off of every limb, just trying to get home. And you know what? It becomes so clear in those little moments, a much larger truth. You can't carry all the things. You can't hold it all by yourself. You can't carry all the griefs and sorrows by yourself. You can't carry all your joys and hopes and dreams. You can't carry all of your history and all of your stories that have come down generation to generation to generation. You can't hold that all on your own, as if your capacity is infinite and unstoppable. You are human, after all. You have limits, and that's okay. Really, it's okay. You carry what you can, how you can, and you know what? And this is the hard part, at least for me. Sometimes you need to ask for help. Sometimes we try to carry things, burdens, obligations, expectations that are beyond comprehensible of what one person can hold. The idea that we can do it at all diminishes our humanity. Sometimes we carry and hold on to things like possessions or identities or egos that are beyond possible to hold as well. We hold them too close or too tightly, too rigidly, and it obscures our ability to attend to anything that is generous or generative. And the hard part about all of this, I don't know about for you, but for me, is that I know this, but I keep forgetting, almost daily, perhaps several times a day, that I can't carry it all on my own. The parents of a child, so a family, let me start that over, a family, and another family, and several other families, some of them who knew each other, some of them strangers, some of them friends, gathered at a beautiful, large gathering. And they were invited into a ritual of breaking bread from all these different faiths as they were comfortable. So the parents of the first child decided not to take the bread and pass it along, and so the child did the same. The second family, they all took the bread. So the second child with her piece of bread was standing there and looked over at her friend. And as she started bringing it up to her mouth, she stopped and she broke it apart and she offered it to her new friend. Her new friend was kind of looking at her parents and took it. And then they held hands and they both ate bread, both of it, for both of them meaning something completely different. But all they knew was this was bread. They were hungry. They were taught to share. And so that's what they did. We all have different things to carry, different things in our possession in this life. We all have different gifts and different means, different hearts and lives to share, but we know from story after story after story that when we stretch and we share as much as we can with those we love and sometimes those we don't even know, our world, their world, feels a little more held together, a little stronger, a little more filled up, a little more strength for whatever journey we're all on. That's the world I want. Is that the world you want too? Some world where mercy and kindness, generosity triumph in our lives for a few moments, where we can slalom into joy, and we are invited by the beauty of birds, God willing, this spring, teaching us of generosity and community. A world where we remember that someone's long ago got here, way before us to open the shutters and the door, to swing the gate. They got here way before us to prepare the space. They made it shine with humble and simple grace and love and grit, waiting for us. This place filled to the brim with words and harmonies and color and story and wisdom and love and inclusion and justice. Someone else got here and started all that long before we were ever here. And now we prepare a space for whoever is to come, however far down the road, that we may never know. A budget is a document, and it's a moral document, both in Washington and here, that expresses values that leaders for years, over 150, have attended to with responsibility and reverence to the mission and hope of who we are trying to be and constantly relearning. Now, it's a modest increase for this year, just a few staff hours, building support position, cost of living increases as an ethical employer, knowing that investing in staff and committees and coffee and youth pilgrimage scholarships, that is investing in our mission. A little more for lights, a little more for heat, a little more money, about 6 to 7% here and there, that goes a long way. I'll give you a good deal. If you turned in your pledge form and you didn't know the general increase that folks were hoping for, that 6 to 7%, and you can swing it, but you just didn't know that, you can still go adjust it. That's fine. You're more than welcome to do that, knowing that many people can increase, many people stay the same, many people can't increase. But the reason that our family stretches as much as we can, and I think the main reason why so many families stretch as far as they can to give what they can in generosity, is because, at least for us, we love this place. And we love all you people. And we love what we do here. And we think it's important. And I think so many of you, if not all, share that too. And because it takes all of us, we know that too, joining hands and stretching out as far as we can to literally hold the walls up, to stop the leaks that just on Thursday would have been hitting a couple of you in the head. But we stopped them. We're good. It's fine. Because we joined together, like we did this last Wednesday night. It was just a normal Wednesday night at church. We had cook teams preparing for dinner, folks setting up for the forum, a practice fire drill for lay leaders, a journalist with a camera coming to interview folks about being an inclusive church and LGBTQ inclusion legislation that was going on. Just a normal Wednesday night at church. And of course, right at that moment, the bottom of the stairs, just outside the Commons, that little outdoor entry, where there's that little place down there, it was filled with water. So you could see the folks coming in with their food for the dinner, right, to share it, just stopping and thinking about those public service warnings. Don't go into a puddle. You don't know how deep it is. And so they turned around and they came in the other door. And what you know at that moment is that you need a lot of people to help figure this out in some ways. And we're a church, right? We're supposed to be a place for sanctuary for the soul, a refuge from the storm. All of a sudden, we just became this little frenetic microcosm of the world's late winter chaos. So we scrambled to find the what and the who and the why and the how to make this situation a little better, this just mini crisis over in the corner. And while life isn't always clear and neat and clean, one thing is certain: in this situation, like any other, you can't go it alone. You need the reach of the whole community or whoever just happens to be there right at that moment when impending doom is right at your doorway. You need someone to come along and hold that door. You need to search, actually a whole search committee, it seemed, to search the building to find where in God's name is the plunger and where is the wet dry vac. Now that is just a wet vac in this case. You need someone to come along and reroute the water. This is perhaps my favorite. Reroute the water outside with a handmade little dam of sand on the parking lot, this high, just going like this, literally crafted by hand to save our church from doom. Then you need someone with a little salt, pour it down the drain, clear it out, and then you're doing okay. But mostly what you need is for more and more people to come along and bring whatever they have. Bring their passions and their ideas, their hopes and their dreams. Bring their skills and their joy and their grief, their faith, their doubts, their questions, their identity, to bring whoever they are and whatever they have, because none of us can go it alone. And if we are going to survive, if we're going to attend to the mess of the world that is always on our doorstep, because of greed or arrogance, because of a type of pride that convinces us that we can do it all on our own, or that we can't have any gifts possible to give, if we are ever going to keep moving forward toward a larger love that holds us all and holds everyone and all things, well then, folks, we need all hands on deck. We need everyone to be all in. No individual heroes, no individual saviors, no comfortable, convenient bargain religion. We are in this together. And we all have something to give, to open the doors and prepare the space, to hold what you have right here in your hands, to start there, right there in your heart, and then break it open and hand it to the people next to you. And I guarantee you, and you know this too, that you will be nourished and your heart will overflow if you pay attention to the rhythms and the arithmetic of love, which is simple. You will get so much more out of this life if you give your gifts away. If you break apart the little you have and extend your hand and say, this is for you. That's what we're trying to build. And that's what we build each day. Closing. Amen. I invite you to grab a hand next to you. Break open your heart and offer it to those in this place, because it is a mighty long way to wherever we are trying to go in this world. We're reminded each day with doom on our doorstep in big and little ways in our lives, right up against our hearts, making us question if what small good we do in the world matters. But it matters. Every little bit is the only way it happens. And we journey together, and we hold the world and our worlds up with the strength of many hands and as many hearts as we can find. May it be so. Amen.